In 2007, a group of tourists led by locals had entered a bug-infested cave in Thailand, when quickly things started going horribly wrong. This is the nightmare of Helena Carroll. Now our story begins in Thailand, more specifically the Khao Sok National Park in the Suratthani province. Khao Sok is a popular destination for tourists staying on the island of Phuket. The park is famous for being covered in the oldest evergreen forest in the world. It's also known for its native tigers, exotic birds and butterflies. Khao Sok National Park is littered with towering limestone cliffs and waterfalls. Limestone is easily eroded, so of course, this national park harbours extensive, bat-filled cave systems. Some are easy and some are notoriously dangerous. It is a truly beautiful and breathtaking place, and in 2021, 297,000 people visited the park. Helena Carroll was 21, and her boyfriend of 4 years and soon-to-be husband, John Cullen, was 24. They were both from the UK and had known each other since primary school. They were childhood sweethearts and they loved each other ever since they met at school. Helena was extremely caring and loved animals, and John was a loving boyfriend who was keen for adventure. John had recently come into some money when his dad passed away. He was due to take over the family business, but at just 24, he wanted to see more of the world before settling down. They had considered using that money for a deposit on a property, but instead they decided they would use it on a trip of a lifetime. So, just like that, the couple booked a year-long trip, during of which they'd spend several months in Thailand before moving on to Australia and then Japan. They had both been working at an elephant sanctuary near Pattaya on Thailand's eastern Gulf when they met up with a friend who had just done a cave tour in the southern province. Their friend told them that it was such an exhilarating experience and that they should definitely book it too. So, the couple thought, why not? So they decided they would book a trip to visit the nearby Nam Talu Cave. The Nam Talu Cave system is a 750 meter long cave that is a popular tourist attraction in the national park. It is a wild cave without rope, walkways or lighting. So the couple tried to book a Nam Talu Cave tour with the local official tour guide, and he advised them that it was Thailand's monsoon season and that Nam Talu was a very treacherous cave this time of year. He ominously warned them that they should not enter under any circumstances, and that they may not return if they tried to enter. The group, however, completely ignored these warnings and decided they were going to hunt out local villagers that were willing to take them to the cave for a bit of money. They eventually found some locals that were willing to do it, but it's worth noting that these local guides, they were simply just people who lived in the village. They had no caving experience whatsoever and no real guiding experience. They barely even had the right equipment, they just knew where the cave was and had a boat to get to where they needed to go. In the peak of monsoon season, which usually lasts until the end of October, this cave is completely flooded. When monsoon season's over, the cave can range from small water under your feet to completely bone dry. It also has a nearby waterfall that when it rains, it can swell with water very fast. Nam Talu is known to be full of king cobras, bats and venomous spiders escaping the heat. So it just sounds like not a fun cave. So, on the 13th of October 2007, it was a beautiful sunny day. The sun was booming and there wasn't a single cloud in the sky. Helena and John were packing their bags in the village, ready to be escorted by the locals. They were both feeling pretty nervous, Helena noting that it wasn't really her type of thing, as she had a huge fear of insects and creepy crawlies. Despite this, they were excited to do something different, something completely out of the ordinary. As they were packing their bags, Helena asked John if he could take her back to the beach tomorrow, John replying, "Of course." The couple were accompanied by a German boy and his mother, as well as 2 Swiss girls and their stepmother, escorted by the local guides and 1 boatman. The group took a 2-hour boat trip to the village, from which they then trekked 2 hours through dense, thick, insect-filled jungle to reach the mouth of the cave. Now when they got there, they noted that the cave had shallow water, around 50 centimeters. So, slowly the group entered the cave on foot. The cave was ominous, large and expansive, but equally as beautiful. When they looked up, the ceiling glistened with the reflection of the bats' eyes in their headlamps, water dripping onto them as they pottered through the cave. Looking at their feet revealed many hidden nooks and crannies in which animals and insects were hiding. As the cave is situated in a rainforest, it's home to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of venomous spiders and insects, and not to mention snakes, something that Helena was also scared of. It was truly a cesspit of insects. Things were going really well. They were enjoying the scenery of the cave, just enjoying being in a completely alien atmosphere. But around 20 minutes into the walk, the group noticed that the water below them had begun to swell and rise, quickly reaching to their knees. This is when the group thought maybe entering this cave wasn't such a good idea. After seeing the water rise, all of a sudden the group heard a loud crash and roar in the distance. They all looked up to see a wave of water rush into the cave at breakneck speed. As the water raced towards the group, everyone scrambled to get on higher ground. The whole group was disorientated and panicked, caught off guard by the insane rate at which the water had entered the cave. It was like nothing they had seen before. The water level had risen from 50 centimeters to 10 meters in just a single minute. I can't even fathom how fast that must have risen. As the whole group panicked, Helena and John spotted a ledge on the high ground that they were sure they could climb to. They clambered towards the ledge and Helena fell, only to be caught and lifted up to the ledge by John. In the struggle, both of them had lost their torches. As Helena got on the ledge, they both breathed a sigh of relief, but the water was still rising. As they looked down, they were forced to watch the whole group get engulfed by surging waters. The force of the water was so much that they had literally no chance whatsoever of resisting the current. The first thing they saw was the tour guide and the 10-year-old German boy be dragged away. Soon after, the Swiss couple and their two lovely girls, disappearing into the rushing waters below. And just like that, the whole group had been swept away. John and Helena clung to this ledge for hours, watching the water flow through the cavern. It was still rising slowly, but hours passed and no help was in sight. The couple sat on this ledge, discussing things that they may have done with their lives if they hadn't entered this hellhole, truly regretting the decision they had made to seek a local guide. It was after a while of sitting here, being attacked by insects and flies, that they both gave up hope that rescue was coming. John said to Helena, "If we stay here, we're going to die." So John thought that if he was to jump into the current of water, he could ride the current all the way out to the other side of the cave and get help. So, against all of his instincts, John told Helena to sit where she was for rescue. He slowly slipped himself into the water to be immediately swept away by the immense current, screaming "I love you" to his soulmate before being swept under the water and disappearing out of view. And just like that, John was gone. So in that moment, Helena realized that she was alone in a pitch black cave with no torches, surrounded by huge spiders, angry bats and insects. A true nightmare environment to be in. With no way of escape and no way of telling anyone that she was in there, she sat on the ledge screaming for help. But she was screaming into the void. Nobody could hear her. Helena slowly sat down on the ledge, replaying the image of her soulmate screaming and being engulfed by water. She accepted that she was going to die here. So alone, she sat there in the pitch black, only watching a glowworm on the side of the cave, thinking that if the water rose above it, she was dead. She considered throwing herself in the water to cut her misery short. She thought if the water keeps rising, it's just going to be a more painful death. So if she jumped, she would get it over and done with. She, however, resisted these thoughts and just waited more. Helena was only wearing a bikini top, vest and shorts at the time, so she began struggling to keep warm, singing and praying, scared of going unconscious. Eventually, she got so thirsty that she was forced to drink the water flowing into the cave. But the water was polluted and dirty, filled with animal feces and mud. So there she sat in the pitch black, with the sound of running water echoing through the chambers, wondering if she would ever make it out of there. After what felt like days, she sat in the dark just waiting for her death. And then suddenly, to Helena's relief, she heard shouts from somewhere in the cave. She shouted back, "I'm here, I'm here." It was a local man. He came barefoot and carried only a bamboo cane. Speaking broken English, he guided her back out of the cave, and with the group of rescuers, they trekked back through the jungle, leeches clinging to their legs. Covered in cuts and bruises, with a searing pain at the base of her spine, Helena was amazed to learn that she had been trapped for a grueling 16 hours on that ledge. She also learned that the man who found her had insisted on advancing further into the cave after the rescuers had completely given up, convinced that no one would have survived, and it was only due to him that she was found. When Helena reached the mouth of the cave, she was greeted with the grisly sight of her group, all in body bags. It then dawned on her that she was the sole survivor. Her boyfriend, John, Helena believed that he had made it out of the cave himself. Rescuers told Helena that John was at the pier waiting for her in an ambulance. But when they got there, John, he was nowhere to be seen. Helena asked, "Where is he? Where is he?" They dragged her into an ambulance and they just said he was dead, which was absolutely heartbreaking and devastating for Helena. Her life was truly wrecked. She went into a manic frenzy, lashing out and screaming at the rescuers, but nothing could be done. He had died only minutes after submerging himself into the deadly current. Helena was due to return back to Britain on Tuesday, just 3 days after they'd entered the cave. Now, Helena would have to travel back, alone. It was said that they told her that John was alive to avoid her going into shock prior to her being able to identify the victims. The dead were named as Swiss nationals Benno Fischer, 49, Rosemarie Schmidt, 48, Andrea Fischer, 17, Sarah Fischer, 15, German national Eddie Geimp was 10, British national John Cullen, 24, and the Thai nationals Kitsak Pratum, 30, and Sahachai Bunkong was 25. Helena suffered heavily, with nightmares and devastation. She had an abiding sense of guilt. Helena also suffered from the life-threatening Weil's disease that resulted from her hours in the cave and the water that she was forced to drink. She later set John to rest, closing this horrific ordeal for Helena. Officials commented on the accident and said that they had ordered the national park to close during the monsoon season, saying that they had signs in English and Thai warning tourists not to go in the cave during heavy rains. These were completely ignored, and it's the reason they all died. Helena said that she couldn't believe that she was the only survivor and couldn't believe that her John was dead. One minute I was in what I thought to be the most beautiful place on earth. The next thing I know, death is all around me. I don't know why they decided to enter the cave, number one, during monsoon season, and number two, they were warned against it multiple times, not just by the official tour guides, but also with the signs. But rest in peace to everyone who died in this incident. It was truly something that could have been avoided. If you like true horror and caving disasters, why not click that subscribe button to be alerted when I release new content? And if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button while you're there as well. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.